الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم رضي الله تعالى عنه وسائر التابعين وعلماء من وأئمة أربع مجتهدين ومقلديهم إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. So, just a class I do every Friday. It's just the time changes. Some days I do it immediately after Jummah. Some days I do it later. I continue to during Ramadan. It's a Islam 101 class, and it's about just it's different topics in Islam generally. Sometimes it'll just be maybe just a discussion on one or two hadith or something of that nature. Last class that we did, we had hadiths that were pertaining to the heart, right? It's various uh, hadith and du'as of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, pertaining to the heart. And so this particular section that we're up to now, we did 11 hadith the first class. This one we're up to the section pertaining to muhabba, right? Love, the actions that are pertaining to the heart, those things that motivate the heart. If you missed the first class, go back, listen to YouTube. How many live things are recorded. So, and Abi Hamza and Anas ibn Malik. Abi Hamza is Anas ibn Malik. That's his kunya. you know, Al-Ansari, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال ثلاث ثلاث من كنا فيه وجد بهن بهن حلوة الإيمان، وفي لفظ طعم الإيمان، من كان الله ورسوله أحب إليه مما سواهما، وأن يحب مرء ولا يحبه إلا لله، وأن يكره أن يعود في الكفر بعد أن أنقذه الله منه، كما يكره أن يقذف في النار. رواه Bukhari wa Muslim. Anas ibn Malik narrates that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, whoever finds himself with three traits will find will find the sweetness, halwa. All right, this is what the Prophet sallallahu said, halwa til iman, that he's tasted the sweetness of his iman. Of course, his metaphor, the sweetness, like a thing that's good for you, that's good to you. You'd be like, man, I just got that job and they giving me $55 an hour. That joint's sweet. That's sweet, right? So it's like a metaphor, using like good, that sweetness. However, with something that you taste and it has that sweet taste to it, it's usually this love of like good, right? That expression. So that sweetness, meaning that you got the most out of your iman. And think about it. What does the Prophet ﷺ say when emphasizing on wanting for your brother what you want for yourself? What did he say in the beginning of the hadith? Anybody know? He says what? You have not. There you go. La yu'minu, right? You haven't believed, right? So that halwa til iman, that sweetness of iman, is that benefit of the belief after you've truly embraced it. It's like layers to it, and you grow every day. The more you do from the commands of Allah Ta'ala and the Sunnah of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and the more you pray, the more you read, the stronger your iman gets, right? The more you stay away from it, the weaker your iman gets, right? And what's iman? Let's talk about that. What's iman? Iman is what? The tasdiq bil qalb, right? the firm acceptance in the heart of Maja'a, whatever the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam came with, right? That's iman, right? Iman fluctuates, meaning your yaqeen, your certainty, right? Because what did the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam say in the hadith of Jibril about iman when he was asked, Ya Muhammad, akhbirni ana iman, inform me what is iman. What was his reply? That iman is what? Number one, anybody know? Number two, huh? Well, he did say that, but not in that particular order. I'm more so looking like what was the order where he said things, but that comes later. Tu'minu billahi wa malaikatihi, the angels, wa kutubihi, the books, wa rasulihi, the messengers, wa yawm al-akhiri, right? And qadri bi khairi wa sharri, right? So he mentions those things. What is iman? Now you firmly accept it, but what else? What else has to? How do you get stronger in your belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Number one, by believing that Allah ta'ala exists, right? That believing that Allah ta'ala existed before time. Allah ta'ala will continue to exist even after the existence of creation, right? Allah Ta'ala was the creator before the creation existed. All of the names and attributes belong to Allah Ta'ala, even without our existence. So we have to believe these type of things, right? The the belief with Allah Ta'ala that Allah Ta'ala doesn't resemble his creation. You believe that Allah Ta'ala is independent of time, space, place, right? Description, makhasis, right? Specification, right? You believe that Allah Ta'ala is omnipotent. He's the all-powerful, right? There's nothing that can conquer Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when you understand that Allah Ta'ala is omnipotence, is qudra, when you understand that, then you'll be able to embrace the qadr of Allah Ta'ala, meaning that you'll either understand one or two things, right? One or two things that come to mind, and it either increases you in the iman or you'll decrease, right? Is that one, that I have absolutely no control. Anything that I do, my ability to execute anything, right, is under the authority of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I mean, I only do it. So like you have a person, you may have a person or so you do have people, they believe they're God, right? Perfect example of that in the Quran. Go study the story of Pharaoh and Musa, right? Pharaoh, he would say things, he said, yo, build me this tower so I can see this Allah, right? There's no true God except me. This is what Pharaoh used to say, right? Pharaoh was drowned, number one. Number two, they say that not only was Pharaoh drowned, but he was drowned in a manner that where he could not even utter the shahada to save himself from the fire, right? Because no matter how evil you are, if you're on your last breath and you utter that shahada, all that is gone. You know how you got a lot of people that hate Donald Trump? If Donald Trump was to utter shahada on his deathbed, you have to wash his body and pray janazah over him the next day, right? And a lot of people have a problem with that because of their hatred that's dictated and governed by the media on why they hate him, right? But anyway, so you want to taste that, this is what's internal. This is what has to be internally accepted, right? What about the malaika, the angels? There's certain beliefs that you have to have about the angels. Like you have to know about the angel Jibril, right? Who was Angel Jibril? What was his job? Or one of his many jobs. What was his primary job? To bring revelation. The Jews hate Jibril. Now, most people in today's time, they be like, well, I don't understand why this is such a problem because, it ain't like we saying we hate Allah. That's the mind. That's the mind state that we're talking about, referring back to the hadith that where the Prophet ﷺ told Hudayfa, there'll be people that will call you some things that they'll call you to, you'll agree with, some things you don't. Muslims today, current modern day Muslims say things like this. Or maybe this or maybe that. No, you have to be like, to the text, to the T. Stick to the T, right? Don't deviate from that. Learn, and if you want to be a person that learn how to interpret ayats, you have to go through the channels to learn how to do that. You just can't come up with your own thing. This was a big fitna for Black Americans from the 70s even up to this very day, right? People give all kinds of interpretations. Well, Jesus didn't actually heal the blind. What he did was he brought the ignorant into the light so they could see. No, he literally healed the blind person. You know what I'm saying? Just like the Prophet said, someone was a man, his eye came out in jihad, he put his eye back in, right? If that's what they said, then that's what we believe, right? So anyway, so this halwa of Iman, this sweetness of Iman is having yaqeen. One of the things that we believe in also with Yom al-Akhir, those events connected with Yom al-Akhir, that the demise, the end of the earth happens, right? Then we'll be raised up and we'll be questioned about this life, the things we've done in this life, and then what happens? You're either gonna go to Jannah or you're gonna go to Jahannam. Correct? Everybody believe that, right? How you know your Iman is strong, you'll avoid doing any type of bad deed, whether you're in front of people or alone, right? Because you don't want to throw yourself into the fire. Your belief in the Yom Al Akhir and belief in the punishment in the grave, the paradise and hellfire will stop you from saying the dumbest things. Right? You won't keep going on and uttering. It'll soften your heart and make you from amongst the most self-accountable individuals. Apologetic. Empathetic, never violating, but also your iman in the akhirah, in paradise and hellfire, will also make you a strong lion and make you a warrior and look death down the eyes and won't back down from it. Right? There was in the 1901 when the British were invading Nigeria, House of Lands. There was a he's famously known for the statement, right? And that's why another thing is you gotta have when you have a lot of knowledge of self, meaning knowing like where you come from, and that doesn't just stop with just knowing Black Muslim history. It's just knowing Islamic history in general. But an emphasis for us because we're making that transition. We're finding ourselves, right? Especially historically, because it gives you that self knowledge, and you stand on business. You be 10 toes down, right? Well, anyway, General Luger, that was his name. He said, "How is it that we fight a people and try to defeat them, that when they look down the barrels of our guns, they see the leaves of paradise? You can't beat that person. Because if they live, they live, right? Those people with high iman, when they were fighting in battle, if they lived, they cried because they really was looking forward to dying and going to Jannah, right? But however, when your iman is weak, you start contemplating on this dunya, right? Or you just don't see, you don't believe in paradise in that manner. And so when it comes to uh doing actions that will lead you to paradise, you're sort of reluctant, you're dragging, you're not like, it's not imperative. Versus like if somebody say, yo, you don't log into class right now, at school, they're gonna fail you for the rest of the year. People will be on there like, oh, hold up, I gotta be there. Even a person who don't do their schoolwork is gonna log in, right? But when you're talking about when Allah Ta'ala tells you to do good and you'll get paradise as a reward, it's like, inshallah, Allah bless me. Yeah, I'm call Allah bless me to be that strong. I don't have that same iman that you have and things of that nature. It's obtainable. It's easy for you to obtain it. You just have to do what Allah Ta'ala tells you. So anyway, moving along. So y'all kind of get what I'm saying about the halwati iman, that sweetness of iman. It affects whatever the outcome is, how you are towards your Islam. That is a sign of how strong your iman or how weak your iman is. Bottom line. So the next, the Prophet ﷺ went on. He said, "And whoever loves Allah and His Messenger more than anything else, and to love another only for Allah Ta'ala's sake." So here, the heart, that love that you have, right, is something that's in the heart, but it's demonstrated off of the limbs, right? You love Allah Ta'ala and you love Allah Ta'ala and His Messenger. So guess what? I'm not going to offend you. I'm going to try my best not to do something to hurt you. You understand what I'm saying? I love Allah and His Messenger. I'm not going to steal from you. You see, I'm not going to harm you. I'm not going to, try to cause bodily harm to you. I'm not going to steal, take from your money or do anything that will cause injustice to lead me to the fire. And if I do so, I'm going to right that wrong, right? This is part of Tawbah, right? When this is lacking, this is what the Prophet ﷺ is saying, right? He says that you love another person only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even your mama, even your wife, even your children, the highest love, the pinnacle of love is for Allah and His Messenger. I'm gonna tell you how much the Sahabas, when we start getting into our Islamic history. In Mecca, the biggest fitna and the one of the thing, the one of the propaganda tactics that they used to use against the Prophet ﷺ and the believers, they would say Muhammad is breaking up families, right? Because many of the earlier Muslims, a lot of them, a portion of them, were some of the offspring, the children of the parents from amongst the Quraysh. And the people from amongst the Quraysh, they were pagans. They used to worship 360 gods. They would go into the Kaaba and worship idols and so on and so forth, right? But their children inclined towards the sun, right? And so then now they're saying, hey, you know, Muhammad is breaking up our family because our children, they don't even care. I can't remember the Sahaba's name right now, but he was one of the young boys. He made the hijrah to Medina. His mother used to dress him real good. He was sharp, right? In the finest garments, right? Used to dress him, my mother and father. I ain't gonna just say mother, but they emphasized that his mother. He was married. His mother used to, make sure he was laced. Whatever you think is fine drip today, it was better than that, right? He made hijrah with the Prophet something. He left his mother in there behind. His mother said, "Yo, wallahi, if you go with Muhammad, I'll never buy you nothing again." Right? Now he used to like looking good. Don't think it was just a thing. His mom did it. His mom made him, bought it for him, but he used to like it, right? And he used to be so dripped out. The women used to be like, wow, he used to really like, be crushing all of his stuff, right? He left and went to Medina. And they said the next time they seen him, his garments was all torn up, all high, ripped up and stuff like that. And they was like, hold up, this is you, right? And he wouldn't abandon Allah and His Messenger. That's that type of iman, that sweetness of iman. So anyway, so the Prophet ﷺ said to love another only for Allah, right? When Abdullah ibn Ubay, remember these names, places, and dates is always important, especially when you're studying Islam, especially studying Islamic history. Abdullah ibn Ubay was the chief of the Munafiqs, right? He was the leader of Medina when it was referred to as Yathrib, okay? So what he tried to do is he tried to keep himself in position to keep his leadership. So he pretended to be with the Prophet ﷺ, and he also would backdoor him with the Quraysh. And the Quraysh was the ops of the Prophet ﷺ. So he would backdoor them. He would set them up. And so when they found out that Abdullah ibn Ubay was doing it, guess who volunteered to execute him? Because that's treason. Guess who volunteered to execute him? His own son. That's how much they love Allah and His Messenger. And there's nothing that a parent can do when they going against Allah and His Messenger to turn you and tell you to do otherwise. So that's just a few examples to show you the seriousness of it. And so anyway, in this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, he said to to hate, oh I'm sorry, to love another only for Allah Ta'ala, and to hate to return back to kufr after Allah saved him from it. Just as he would hate to be thrown in the fire. So you can't have no love for kufr. And I believe that this is the conundrum in the Black Muslim community, is because we'll love that person and we don't know how to separate the two. Your main man, your homie, he may be a gangbanger or what, maybe even a gangbanging Muslim or whatever, right? And you love him, or it may even be your brother or your sister or whoever. You'll love them. And so, but because of the things they do, you have a tendency to turn a blind eye, right? you have a tendency to turn a blind eye, like, I'm just saying, you'll deflect whatever your argument is on why you embrace it. The best way to love someone for Allah Ta'ala and hate for Allah Ta'ala is when you're displaying hate. You don't any good that a person does, it should increase you in the love for an individual, right? And this stuff really works, especially for family. If you have a family that's striving to be on that path, you should show them the utmost love when they're doing things, in the way of Allah Ta'ala. But when they're doing things that's against Allah Ta'ala, what the deen has brought, then you should kind of like shun them or don't show them, don't praise that, right? Don't praise that thing that they're doing that's against the deen. Or speak up and say, yo, don't do that, right? Because if you condone it, it gives them the idea that it's okay, right? Like one of the biggest conflicts that you have in the US is school and Juma, right? Parents be concerned about school because it's like, okay, once you get educated, I say program, but that's just me. You can't miss Juma, but Allah Ta'ala commands them to go to Juma. We're not talking about kindergartners, first graders. Even though when you start something off while they're young, it becomes something more permanent for them when they become older, right? Like, I never really reflected on it until one day me and my daughter was having a conversation, and my daughter has never left out the house without a kimar on from the time she was a baby. I think she's been wearing a kimar since she's about 2, right? As just a point of reference. So you create that. But here Allah Ta'ala tells you, to leave off all worldly things and being, come to the masjid to pray. So when you create this habit, this custom, this practice, right? Just like the whole thing of, oh, women don't have to come to the masjid. Masjids used to be flowing and pouring out with women and children. And now if you look at it now, a lot of women don't come to Jumu'ah no more. Don't come, some say, hey, I gotta work or whatever the case is. But then when they don't have to work, they're in the marketplace all day. And Allah Ta'ala tells you the most beloved place to Allah Ta'ala in this dunya is where? The masjid. The most hated place to Allah Ta'ala in this dunya is what? The marketplace. And we spend all our times in the marketplace and less time in the masjid, right? So anyway, you praise them for those things that they do and encourage them to do good. Those things that they do evil, you turn away from and you don't give it no praise, right? And the individual, us as individuals in our heart, we have to hate kufr, right? And to return to it the same way we hate to be in the fire. So it would never be a problem or a conflict for a believer that possessed this type of love and hate to even want to celebrate Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, or any of those particular holidays. It wouldn't even be something to talk about. Be like, what do you mean? Right? So, but anyway, the next one is the dua. It's on the authority of Abu Darda. Abu Darda, uh, Uwaymiri ibn Zayd al-Ansari رضي الله تعالى عنه قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كان من داعي داود يقول اللهم إني أسألك حبك وحب من يحبك وأعمل الذي يبلغني حبك اللهم اجعل حبك أحب إلي من نفسي وأهلي ومن الماء بريدي رواه الترمذي وقال حديث okay. Abu Darda he reported the Messenger of Allah sallallahu said one of the du'as. So this is a du'a from Prophet Dawood alayhi salam. And its translation is, "Oh Allah, I ask you for your love, the love of those who you love, and the deeds which will cause me to attain your love. Oh Allah, make your love dearer to me than myself, my family, and cold water." Say Ameen, Ameen. The next hadith we'll talk about is Raja, hope. You have a hopeful heart, right? And Abi Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu and the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Quick fact check or Snapple fact, if you want to call it that, or Zamzam fact. What was Abu Hurairah's name? His that Abu Hurairah's his kunya. What was his birth name? Abdurrahman. I was thinking it, but I thought you said that was his dad name or something. No, his name is Abdurrahman. Abu Hurairah is his kunya. Like Abu Bakr, his name is also Abdurrahman too. Abdurrahman ibn Quhafa. So Raja, hope. لما خلق الله الخلق كتب في كتابه فهو عنده فوق عرش إن رحمته تغلب غضبي رواه Bukhari ومسلم. Now, he said, Abu Hurairah said before the Prophet ﷺ, when Allah Ta'ala completed, the creation, he had in his book, the Lahu, it said, certainly, indahu fawqa arsh, right? It said, certainly my mercy prevails over my wrath. So you'll find that Allah Ta'ala shows that mercy to those who believe in Allah Ta'ala. So this also keeps the heart hopeful. But don't be like a Christian hopeful. The Christian hopefulness is almost like borderline tantamount to kufr. Like, I know Allah won't punish me. Right? Allah says in the Quran, and Allah has shadid al-iqab. So indeed Allah Ta'ala is severe in punishment. So Allah Ta'ala, no, Allah will punish you. But you're also hoping for the mercy of the past actions that you did and repented from, right? Not going in consciously committing the sin and be like, my Lord gonna forgive me either way, right? Now, and so, yeah. Let me see. There's a dua. And Abi Bakrata Nufay ibn Harith الثقافي الثقفي رضي الله تعالى عنه قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم دعوات مقروب اللهم رحمتك أرجو فلا تكلني إلى نفسي طرفة عيني وأصلح لي شأني كله لا إله إلا أنت رواه أحمد وأبو داود. Abu Bakr, not Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr, all right? Abu Bakr, this guy, this Sahaba, his name is Nufay ibn Haris, all right? Abu Bakr, his name is what? I just told y'all. Abdurrahman ibn. If y'all don't know your brother's name, y'all don't know your brother's name. You can't. How could you ever forget? How could you ever forget Abu Bakr Siddiq? What's his father's name? His father's name is Quhafa. You have a brother named Omar Quhafa. There's a secret behind that. I'll tell y'all later why I named him that. But anyway, he said, "Oh Allah, it is your mercy I hope for, so do not abandon me to myself. Don't leave me to myself, right? Not even for a moment, and take care of all of my affairs, and there's nothing worthy of worship except you." Now, honestly, when you humiliate yourself to this low, when you're begging Allah Ta'ala, and you should always be in that state, that's when you see you see the help from Allah Ta'ala. And I promise you it increases your iman. If you feel weak on your iman, especially life after Ramadan, that's our Sunday's podcast, right? When you feel it, that iman, because the reason why I'm making reference to it is Ramadan. After Ramadan, I see everybody putting so much effort during the month of Ramadan, right? And we're coming up on one of the sacred months after the month of Shawwal, right? Which in about 2 weeks we'll be looking for the Hilal. It's called Dhul Qaeda. It's one of the sacred months. You put in that struggle to increase yourself in your iman and maintain what you had in Ramadan, right? You don't go up and then come right back down, right? That's a problem. That's problematic. So you try to maintain, at least maintain. If you were able to abstain from food this long, then you can do the same thing when outside of Ramadan. But anyway, this type of humiliation gets you the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? There's a narration in the Shifa called the Iyad that mentions that when our father Adam alayhi salam and his wife and Iblis got kicked out of paradise, we were already in Jannah, right? So we got kicked out of paradise, so now we're trying to work our way back. And he said on the back of the arsh, that magnificent throne, it said, it was a dua, and he asked Allah Ta'ala, he said, oh Allah, forgive me by the barakah, by the ranking of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, right? So knowing at that point you have humility where you find in all options, you pleading with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't go in there. When you're making dua, don't go in with your mind all over the place like, yeah, let me hurry up and do this real quick. This is why sometimes we don't get the benefit out of our time. No, we get the benefit out of our du'as. Because our heart and mind is somewhere else, but our lips are just uttering words. Right? And this is the last one that I'll mention, inshallah. Anas ibn Malik, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, قال بلغ رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أن أصحابه شيء فخطب فقال أريدت أريدت علي الجنة والنار. Excuse me. فلم أرى فلم أرى كاليوم في الخير والشر ولو تعلمون ما أعلم لا ضحكتم قليلا ولا باكيتم كثيرا. رواية Muslim. Anas ibn Malik reported that something was conveyed to him by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam about his companions, so he addressed them. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that paradise and hellfire, I've seen paradise and hellfire be shown to me. And I've never seen such good, nor have I seen such evil as I have today. And if you knew what I knew, you would laugh little and cry more often. Right? Laugh less, because what is to come is not a laughing matter. You don't want to spend a lot of time. That's why even with your entertainment, you don't want to entertain yourself to death. Because you literally entertain yourself to death, the heart becomes dead. And the only thing you do is live in that fantasy world that's being exposed to you on whether it's a video game, television, social media, whatever. All right. And your heart becomes faint and weak. Your iman follows right behind that, because that's what's making your heart weak. Right? You ever watch TV to the point, or whatever, got so engaged in it that you delayed prayer, or you didn't pray, or you forgot to pray? That's that heart. That's what that does to you, right? So you want to minimize that. Not saying eliminate it. Eliminate it ain't a bad idea, but minimizing that. And the Prophet ﷺ told us that what? If you knew what I know, he's seen paradise, he's seen the hellfire, right? Seen paradise, seen hellfire. And he knows the reality of what's to come. And if you knew what I knew, you'll laugh less and cry more. And Omar used to be the type of person that would make himself cry at the thought of going to hellfire or going to paradise, right? You really have more to cry about than you actually have to laugh, right? So there's times, take that time out when you're alone, right? Nobody around. Take that time out. Take time out every day, once a month, once a week, once a day, however you do it. Take that time out and reflect And imagine your soul in that grave. Was that? Yeah, it was you guys that was here that time with me and Muhammad. We was narrating a hadith about the soul in the grave and it be squeezed, and we was squeezing y'all. That was y'all, right? Yeah. These things are happening. Of course, the pressure that we did ain't gonna be nothing comparison to how you be squeezed in the grave. But it was to teach you the lesson was that these are the things to come. Don't forget to reflect on those, right? Television, things like they're only there to make you feel good. Matter of fact, you ever notice? Think about this. The person who lives for social media, right? The person who lives for social media, whether that be an individual, whether that be the wife, right? Like a lot of brothers experience this joint with the wife situation, and a lot of women experiences with husbands, right? You have some husbands that can't stay off of social media looking at women. It's like a disease, right? Likewise, you have some married women that can't stay off social media. They need somebody to like their pictures, right? Now, if you take away social media from the two of them, they're both miserable with each other. Some men only like their women because based off the other woman that they just looked at. Same thing with the husband. The wife doesn't like it because she's too busy looking at the fantasy land that they're telling you. Our reflection, we want joy and we want to think about things to come in the future. Then we look and pay attention to what Allah says in the Quran, to paradise, right? If you have a wife, and this is one of the things that motivate me, as a husband, and your wife is annoying, but her deen, her Islam is intact. She might be a good person, but she's annoying. She's annoying as heck, right? Think about what I think about is her replica in Jannah, because the Prophet ﷺ talks about how in Jannah the Huru Ain will be better than the women in this life, right? And then when you got a wife that abuses you, she might be verbally abusive with the tongue, don't care. She just say anything, hurt your feelings, don't care, right? Or punch on you or whatever the case is. No, this is real. The Huru Ain, those wives that you waiting for, they make dua, like hey. Get your hands off my man. He's just a loan to you, man. Allah disfigure you. Right? Now, we laugh about it, but that joint means something because when you go back and reflect on all these public events that happen where there's a child and the mother is present and that child's getting killed, who's the voice that you hear screaming out for that kid? The mother, right? So imagine now your wives in Jannah is screaming at your wife in dunya that's mistreating you, right? But it also teaches you to do what? Have some level of clemency towards your wife as well, right? Have some clemency. It's not saying that it's cool for your wife to mistreat you, but you have some clemency, some forbearance, and inshallah, and perhaps that be, her twin and saying, "Get your hands off my man, Allah disfigure you." Inshallah. All right, we'll close out with this dua. This is number 17. So we did 17 hadith of this book so far. عن عبد الله بن عمر رضي الله تعالى عنهما قال كان من دعاء رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم اللهم إني أعوذ بك من زوال نعمتك وتحول تحول عافيتك فجاءة نقمتك وجميع سخاتك. رواه مسلم. Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Who's the father of Abdullah ibn Umar? Anybody paying attention? Who's the son of Abdullah ibn Umar? I mean, who's the father of Abdullah ibn Umar? What was his father's name? Abdurrahman. Nope, you ain't paying attention. Who is the father of Abdullah ibn Umar? Yeah. Nope, he ain't. Nope. I mean, you said Abdullah ibn Umar. Right. Umar. Yes, Umar who? Khattab. Yes, Umar ibn al-Khattab. Yeah. Right. That was just one of those pop questions. Y'all gotta be on your pivot. You gotta be on your pivot. You gotta stay on top of it. Anyway, oh Allah, I seek refuge in you against the declining of your favor. I mean, the passing of your safety. I mean, the suddenness of your punishment and all that which displeases you. Ameen. So we'll stop there, inshallah. Subhanaka Allahumma bihamdik wa shadu an la ilaha illa anta wa astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. So we're almost done with this. We're almost done with this book. Alhamdulillah. And what's wrong with that? 22 more narrations. Assalamu alaikum.